Mic check, 1 2 1 2. King of the Pit Media. Yes, yes. I'm gonna set the standards today. I'm gonna set the standards. We're sipping on a Pepsi Max, or what may be perceived as a Pepsi Max. Yes. 37.5% Pepsi Max to be exact. If you catch my drift, we're enjoying the night tonight. I'm gonna break down the tiers of metal. Yes. This is gonna be definitive, yeah? I don't care who else has done this. I'm not too fussed on your opinion because I'm going to rewire that brain of yours to acknowledge the true order, the true hierarchy of metal music. Hanging for the ride. I mean, we can only see one line of genre at the moment, but we've got, I think, at least 3 lines worth. So, hold on tight, yeah? Let's get straight into it, shall we? Let's get straight into it. First and foremost, alternate metal. And just if you've just happened to come across this video and you don't know how this works, right? We're quite simply going to be categorizing genres of metal, if not extreme metal music and their counterparts, by tier. So classified by how good the genre is, essentially. So we're starting off with alternate metal. What the hell is alternate metal? Novelty metal. Bruh, you're already going in E. We're already starting off on a low. Alternate metal, alt metal. Bruh, I can get by alt rock, indie rock, all of this. What's the Radiohead of metal music? It don't exist. What the hell is alternate metal? It's shit. Don't exist. False genre. Posers only. That's out of the question. Avant-garde. The hell is avant-garde? F. Right, now we're getting onto it. Black metal. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Let me tell you something about black metal, right? Let me make myself a bit bigger. One moment. We got space. We got space. Black metal. I was never bothered about. I was a fan of the punk DIY recording. I mean, to sort of go out of your way to make it sound rubbish is a bit forced. It is a bit forced. The dressing up is forced. But as I get older, I start to develop more so of an affinity with the esoteric fashion, the genuine mystical elements of those who may be behind these projects. I find that fascinating. But there's a lot of forced material. Do I want to see black metal bands live? Last black metal band I saw live was a band called Black Witchery, or at least, a band what is established. That was a while back now. They were cool, but no one's moshing. No one's moshing. No, these black metal bands, black metal. You know what? Just because you're a heavy hitter, I'm gonna bang you in C. I'm gonna bang you in C. Right, Black and Death. Right, we're getting tasty now. Black and Death metal. What do I know about Black and Death? Would you call Skeleton Witch Black and Death metal? You're either death metal or you're black metal. Anywhere in between's novelty. Going in D. Banging it in D. It's not black metal. It's not black metal. It's black and death. It's death metal that can't... It rids of the maturity of traditional death metal. I make the rules. It's a D. Black and Deathcore. E tier. E tier. Blackened Deathcore is modern, overproduced. The overproduction generally on this, because it's a relatively modern style of music, you know? And if you think I'm wrong, I don't care. Deathcore, realistically, or what we know as deathcore, is a 2000s genre. I grew up in the deathcore period. I know you could talk about, oh, the roots are in the 90s and all this and that. Bruh, no one cares about that style of deathcore. People know deathcore as in the early to mid 2000s, 2007, 2008. That's it. Anything beyond there is just overproduced garbage. Truth be told. Generally speaking, but I'm jaded. I'm an old head at this point. Blackened deathcore is modern. And it's unworthy. It's unworthy. It's unworthy. It's like blackened death metal. It's like your deathcore or your black metal. There's no in between. It cheapens the whole experience. It pollutes and dilutes the purity of something that is pretty good or can have the potential of being pretty good. Creates a novelty of it. Creates a dress up of it. And here we go again, we're moving on. I guess this is in alphabetical order. So we've got blackened metalcore. That doesn't even exist. That goes into F. I don't care what you tell me. That doesn't exist. Blackened metalcore. What we talking about? What we talking about? Blackened metalcore. There were some blackened elements in the metal influence of the metalcore in the 90s in some acts. I've got a couple of Belgium acts in mind, but metalcore is metalcore, man. You might as well say Slayer's a blackened act because it's got elements of, you know, satanic principle and so forth. It doesn't exist. I don't care. Don't argue with me. Blackened metalcore doesn't exist. Blackened thrash. Right. I'll bang that in C. I'll bang that in C. Blackened thrash to me is a parallel with your crust, with your D beats, with your D beat rock and rolls, your toxic holocausts and whatnot. That's a good combination. That's a good combination. Is it as good as thrash metal? No. Is it as good as black metal? Hey, I'm making the rules today. I'll put it parallel. Even though it dilutes the purity of thrash, and you can tell where I'm going to be putting thrash metal, that's not going to be on the same tier as black metal, that's for sure. Blackened thrash metal is okay. I listened to a record recently that got recommended on the review channel. A band called... the record was like called flipping Troops of Tomorrow or something of Tomorrow. That might be a Cocksparrow record, Troops of Tomorrow. It might be a flipping Exploited record, I don't know. Something Weapons of Tomorrow or something from a relatively modern blackened thrash band. I don't think the instrumental elements work in this genre, but I do feel like the shrieked vocal elements do work over the top of thrash metal riffage. The intensity, the speed goes hand in hand with the blackened elements. I don't really want to hear blast beats in thrash, to be honest. But crust does have an indirect partnership with black metal, and crust can get pretty bloody thrash when it wants to be, you know? Your D-beat rock and roll and whatnot. Right, moving onwards. Brutal death metal. This one's going to be tough. Because as much I want to give it a C, I want to give it a D. I'm going to give brutal death metal a C. I'm going to give it a C. Controversial opinion. I reckon brutal death metal in some cases, if not maybe more cases, is more pleasing to the ears than traditional death metal, which might be blasphemous to, you old school heads. I like brutal death metal. I think you can't listen to too much of it. Or at least I can't listen to too much of it. It does get a little bit boring from, after so long. But then again, to me, so does death metal. I like the guttural vocals. I like intensity, extremity that is enhanced by the production value you get within the realm of brutal death. I don't like the tech death elements. I don't necessarily want to hear too much of that. But the pattern work of the vocals, the brutal toilet gurgles and so forth, given that we've got that, if it's considered brutal, I'm a fan. But it gets to a degree where you're just listening to vocal patterns at times because the lyrical content is, you can't decipher it. It does get boring fast. I'm sure we've got slam coming up, so I'm not going to categorize brutal death with slam, but I think they are somewhat adjacent in my world, at least. Brutal death might not actually have the slam riffs, but across the board, they are very alike. Moving onwards, we've got Christian metal. One moment. I'm indifferent to Christian metal. I'm gonna bang it on E. I'm gonna bang it on E because I think, as much as I'm not an overtly anti-religious person. I just feel there's a corniness to pro-religious, extreme music. These Christian acts are better off writing nice melodies, uplifting hooks, choruses. If this was hardcore and punk music, Christian hardcore and punk could be up there. Because there's some incredible, straight edge Christian bands. There's a lot of incredible Christian metalcore acts. But in the realms of the metal space, when we speak of Christian metal, it's not just like there happens to be Christians in the band. If they are preaching and actually going, spreading the gospel through this music, I feel it's a detraction from what I want to experience. Crossover thrash metal. Crossover thrash is gonna have to get a big fat floppy. It's getting an S. Crossover thrash is getting an S. My mind is telling me no. My mind initially went for your punk adjacent crossover thrash bands, your DRI worshipping fastcore acts, which would have been of a lower standard, a lower tier. But then I'm thinking of the metal bands and the riffs. The riffs. Oh my days. Oh my days. I think on the metal side of the spectrum, as opposed to the punk side of the spectrum, because clearly thrash is the best of both worlds, your punk rock and your metal. But when you're more so on the metal side and you're a crossover act, i.e. you are essentially a hardcore band playing metal music, when you cater more so to the metal riffing, bro, possibly the best riffs in metal. Possibly the best riffs. And I'm not talking about the fast riffs. I'm not talking about the slow tempo riffs, the chug riffs. I'm talking about the mid tempo. Best riffs in metal. I don't think we're going to have any better metal riffing genres. Each to their own. Some people talk about doom and stoner, all this and that. Bruh, we're here to pit. It's king of the pit media. And how can I not put Crossover Thrash in the S tier? Honestly, if you look at that tier list, that is a clear depiction of the severity of my appreciation to that particular genre. When I was young, there was a fantastic metal and music like independent shop in the city centre. Bro, if it was still about now, sold metal t-shirts, yeah, and I'm not talking about your His Infernal Majesties and your Sign of the Times 2000s, you know, Bam Majora shirts and this and that. You'd go in, your Cannibal Corpse shirts, your Morbid Angels, your Autopsies. You got these incredible metal in the middle of the city centre. And they sold CDs, right? And I turned up and I asked the woman behind the counter, I say, what would you recommend? I was a young lad. I must have been 14, 15 years old, if that. And she goes, what do you like? And I said, I like thrash metal. I want to check out some thrash. And she goes, well, check this record out, this CD. Gamma Bomb. I think the record was Citizen Brain. Is Citizen Brain a band? It was Summit Brain, I think. Was Citizen Brain the CD they did? It had the tune Bullet Belt on it. And she referenced Crossover. It's a Crossover thrash record. I didn't know what Crossover was. I probably didn't work out what Crossover was seriously until like years after. But I put this CD in and I'm like, yes. That was my introduction to Crossover thrash, and then clearly as the years went by I got into hardcore punk and everything started to make sense. Right. Death metal, plain and simple. I call this traditional death metal. I don't simply call it death metal. I call it traditional death metal. That's death metal to me. Death metal, of course, is rooted in the 80s. To me and my idea of what death metal is, personally, is the sounds of the like 89 onwards, perhaps. I know Death came out with Scream Bloody Gore prior to that and so forth. Of course, that's incorporated into the big picture. But as far as my familiarity, I associate death metal with Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, Autopsy. Obituary have got a surprisingly modern sound as far as like traditional goes. But you know where I'm coming from. My friend and I discuss extreme metal a lot. He's very into metal. I've never been truly into death metal. But from what I'm aware, I'm into like the more Swedish style of things. I like the DB infused death metal. I like the more punk influenced death metal as opposed to, you know, your Americanized brutality. But death metal, oh, I would like to give you C tier. I'm gonna have to give you C tier. I'm gonna have to. And do you know what that means? If I put death metal into C, because I've put brutal death in there, and I said I kind of prefer brutal death, but if I put death metal in C, that means I'm going to have to take black metal and bang that into D. Death metal's better than black metal. Death metal is better than black metal. And we're going to leave that there. Now, deathcore. Blasphemy. Deathcore. You're going right there next to death metal. I don't care what you got to say. Deathcore was the soundtrack. Or, you know, the thing. When I was youthful and really exploring music. I could tell you a lot about deathcore. Where I'm from, right? I was about when Bring Me the Horizon had put out Count Your Blessings. Deathcore was the thing. Count Your Blessings. I mean, Architects wasn't necessarily deathcore, but was within the surrounding circuit. We had Whitechapel. I'm talking about, this was 2005, 2006. I think the epitome of this genre is a band called As Blood Runs Black. They put a record out called Allegiance. To me, that is the epitome of what I believe the deathcore sound is. Obviously, we can root it all the way back into the 90s and talk about, the actual core elements, the death metal infused hardcore extremity we found from time to time in the 90s. And some people can take it even earlier than that, but I don't care. To me, deathcore is a 2000s genre. 2000s era. Everyone had stretched ears. MySpace was the thing. Annotations of an autopsy. Welcome to Sludge City. Arguably, Slam had a lot to give to deathcore, because through deathcore came a community of scene kids, brutal kids who identified with brutal music, and this pig squeal element of bands like Despised Icon, Job for a Cowboy, seeped into these different spaces. Deathcore linked into tech death. I knew a lot of people into deathcore who picked up a guitar through deathcore and got into tech death because of the interest, like sweep picking, lead guitar solos and stuff like that. It was a great entry level into other forms of extreme music at that time, including Slam. I know Slam pre-exist, right? No doubt. But there's not too far a distance between the brutality of the dissonant chug breakdown of the deathcore with the ridiculous vocal line, the pig squealing and whatnot, and the brutal death vocal of the Slam bands and the low tempo drop tuned chugs of the Slam riffs. Waking the Cadaver were a good band that bridged the gap. Still going. Classic. Gent. Oh my god. I'm not too familiar with this genre. I don't like people who are into Gent. Gent fans are the worst. Because they're just hyper obsessed with the gear. And albeit the bands, or at least the leading bands in the circuit, are well known for a reason, they're incredibly talented. Rhythmically speaking, it's mind-boggling. But I'm not a fan of technicality. I do like rhythm, but when it comes to, the overt sort of excessive egocentric rhythmic expression, where I feel like an idiot because I can't follow the rhythm, so I can't bop my head in time. That's not music made for me. It's not marketed for people like me. I'll have to bang Gent into E. Doom metal, right? Doom is right. Doom is okay on the right occasion. But have you ever been to a Doom All Dayer festival? I ask you this. Have you ever been to a Doom All Day festival? Truth be told, if you have done and you've enjoyed it all the way till the end, bro, you got the patience of a saint, because it gets boring fast. It gets boring very fast. I don't smoke weed no more. Do you need to smoke weed to enjoy this sort of music? I like the blues. I like the incorporation of blues into metal music. I think that's fantastic. But Doom goes into E. Goes into E. Drone metal F. Who's got the fucking time for that? I'm not putting. I'm not setting time aside in my calendar, in my phone calendar, to listen to a song. I don't have the time. Don't care. Don't find that interesting. I want to mosh. I want to go for a dance. I want to tap my toes. I don't care for drone. Hate it. Depressive, suicidal black metal, DSBM. Um, I don't listen to it. I've come across it a fair amount back when I was exploring music a little more so than I do now. Back when I was younger. I like the atmosphere. I do like the vocals. I do like the vocals. I'd prefer more of a tempo, a bit more of a wall of sound like you get in black metal. I don't just want to hear like broken chords on a relatively clean guitar with a guy like pretending to like cry over the top. Um, would I recommend depressive suicidal black metal to anyone? No, I'd be embarrassed to do so. It's an E from me. Folk metal. The only folk metal band I know is Fintroll, and it was all right at the time. Do I give it an F or an E? Who cares? Let's give it an E. Not gonna be tight. Grind. Ooh, grind is gonna be tough because we're getting into hardcore punk territory here. Grind. Oh, it depends what sort of grind we're speaking. I don't just want to hear noise for noise sake. I don't just want to hear blast some guy shouting and then the track's over in 20-second bursts. Nobody wants to hear that. That's novelty. There's no time to enjoy the music. Grindcore, if we're talking about DB, do you know when a band is so consistent, so fast that it's like an actual mosh section and such a like a detour from the intensity and speed that like a skank beat or a fast paced D beat actually winds down the energy a little bit and creates movement. Grind. I'm gonna bang grindcore and B. I'm a hardcore punk fan first and foremost. I'm a punkhead. Grindcore gets a B. Groove metal. Groove metal is kind of boring. I'll bang it on D. I'm not bothered about Pantera. Not bothered about Devil Driver. Not bothered about bands like that. I think generally, to call it groove metal is like, I don't know, I think it's a bit pompous, really. All of these bands have got groove. A death metal band can have groove. A brutal death metal can have groove. Grind, crossover, they can all have groove. The idea of calling a band groove metal because I don't know. I don't know the technical reason, but you're not gonna see me turn up to an event because it's a groove metal event. You're not gonna see any events put on full stop that garners a pull where I'm based. If it's full of groove metal bands, no one cares. No one cares. Heavy metal, A tier, A tier, A tier. Heavy metal is functional in a lot of spaces. Heavy metal will never die. Heavy metal will never die. Heavy metal and thrash metal, in my opinion, is metal music. Is metal music. Is metal. It will never go out of fashion. Will never go out of style. Will never go out of style. Heavy metal can be corny, it can be cheesy, and the fantastic thing about heavy and the best thing about corny and cheesy heavy metal is that it's completely accepted, it's supported, and it's not false. It's a laugh, as opposed to it being perceived as novelty. It's just like it's almost on a spiritual basis. It's almost like of a higher frequency of energy than any other metal genre or subgenre. Of course, because of the incredible roots, but the degree of lore, the character within the genre, how far its roots spread and what it defines, it's just... We've got the riffs. We've got the riffs. We can just e-chug all day. We can use the flipping what they're called, unison mends. Flipping kickstart my heart. Oh my flipping days, man. Heavy metal, it's everywhere. I was listening to Deicide the other day. The self-titled. So many heavy metal elements. When the death metal bands kick into their mid-tempos, you know what I mean? The tapping away on the tinging away on the cymbals. We've got the riffs. We've got the stomping, driving drums. We've got the characters, and it's not a novelty. I mean, it can be. I guess it's each to their own. Because the way I perceive, like, the black metal attire as a novelty, the black metal heads will probably see these heavy metal heads with, like, I mean, I don't like all the battle jackets and shit like that. I just think that's aesthetically unappealing. Personally, I don't get along with that. But the swords and the battle axes and the big muscular men on the album covers with like lightning striking in the background and a guy going wah in these high falsetto vocals and stuff. Not only that, but heavy metal is the epitome of musicianship and craft within metal as a whole. The actual instrumental value, and when I speak on the falsetto vocals and stuff, some of the frontmen and the vocalists I have heard that derive in this vast yet precise genre. And I think heavy metal is like beyond the genre of music. It's an energy. It's an element, like punk rock is. I can see a death metal band, and if that death metal guy acts in a particular manner that is abnormal to what you generally see, I can say that's punk rock. Such as I can see heavy metal elements above and beyond anything that is related to the music of heavy metal. It transcends music. Heavy metal, yeah, fantastic. Industrial metal, E tier. Kawaii metal, that's baby metal and stuff like that, innit? Or am I being racist for saying that? I don't fucking know. That's the only act I know that could be anything adjacent to that. I'm not even gonna rank that because that baby metal fan base is crazy. Trust me. I'll let you rank that one. Melodic deathcore. Flipping hell. In my world, there's no such thing. Melodic death, yeah. What the hell is melodic deathcore? Just because it's annoyed me, that's going F tier. Melodic death. Yep, melodic death. Oh, I could put it in B. I'm putting it in B. Melodic death metal is better than traditional death metal, and it's better than brutal death metal. It's hard. Melodic death metal, to me, has an indirect connection with metalcore, like 90s metalcore music. I like melodic death metal. I think it's hard. I think the vocals are fantastic. Generally speaking, you tend to get a little more of a shriek value, as opposed to like the consistent low growls and grunts of a like primitive death metal band. The riffage is always good. I'm not saying technicality. I don't really want to go over and excessive on the technicality, but melodic death metal is hard. I think. I think it's a brilliant genre. I think it's definitely adjacent to grindcore. Yeah, definitely. Melodic metalcore. Why can't we just call it metalcore? I'm just gonna have to bang it on F, because to me there's no such thing. There's no such thing as melodic metalcore. That sucks. That sucks. There's only metalcore, man. Metalcore. Oh fuck. A tier. A tier. A tier. A tier. Metalcore is A tier. What am I speaking of when I speak of metalcore? I speak first and foremost generally, which might be in the grand scheme, considering we're talking about like metal music, not hardcore music. But when I say metalcore, I'm speaking of, to make it more metal, Slayer influenced mosh metal bands. And yeah, I'm gonna cheat here, and I'm gonna say metalcore acts of the 90s first and foremost. Your Belgium acts, your European straight edge acts. Congress, Liar, Kickback, Archangel. Moving on into the 2000s, hey, I was a fan of bands like Parkway Drive, Atreyu, and I know that's a one of its own, innit? Like Atreyu, shit like that. Bullet for My Valentine. I think the way metalcore matured wasn't necessarily detrimental. Yeah, it became, a different being, but the music was still okay. It was okay. But I'm a fan of mosh metal, and it still exists. Metalcore is still incredibly underground when it wants to be. Creates great crowds, creates real organic, serious cult fan bases within the hardcore community and the metal community alike. It's not like it's, of course there's a divide. Like I said, when the 2000s came about, we started getting signed to major deals. The fringe became in fashion, and it sort of became a completely different thing as to spin kicking in a tracksuit with, a pair of Reeboks on your feet. But metalcore is great, and when I speak of metalcore, most definitely the Slayer influenced stuff, as opposed to, your drop tuned, drop C breakdown bands, which sort of went hand in hand with the deathcore bands at the time. Sometimes there was a bit of a blurred line between the two. But yeah, metalcore is great. Metalcore is dance music. Metalcore is great music. Great music. New deathcore. Okay, I think I've never heard of this before. I don't know if they're speaking of new metal influenced deathcore or just like the new variation of deathcore, but truth be told, it doesn't exist. That goes into F. New metalcore doesn't exist. Goes into F. New metal. What I love about new metal is that, speaking of, when new metal was prominent as opposed to the new metal adjacent acts now. There was such variety in the sound. It wasn't. Each and every act had their own gimmicks, had their own flavors. And if you liked a new metal band, you really did like a new metal band because their sound seeped through their entire catalogue and was generally very unique in relation to the other bands of new metal. Regardless, it gets a D. Gets a D from me. I like Limp Bizkit. I think Limp Bizkit was a hard band. Is a hard band. What else is good in new metal world? Korn has a few good ideas from what I remember. I'm not a Slipknot fan. When I first heard the Slipknot debut, though, I was blown away by the quality of it. System of a Down, I actually liked them when I was younger. Nowadays, nah, not fussed on System. Yeah, who cares? Moving on. Pirate Metal gets an F. Gives a fuck. Hey! Yeah, Porno Grind. I want to be funny here and give Porno Grind like an A tier. Let me tell you one thing. Porno Grind is S tier, yeah? It's S tier. But the samples, 1, 2, 3, 4, the samples put it in D because, bro, what the hell? You know what? The samples put it in D and the actual, like, song titles, the artwork, and so on and so forth, put it even further into E. It's completely unmarketable, and not that that's an issue. Like, as a music fan, it's not your job to market the music, but how can I talk to my friend about how good Sperm Swamp is? Check this Sperm Swamp record out, and it's like half an hour of the 40-minute record is just like porn samples of just like women coming on record. I can't be dealing with that. You know what I mean? I can't be dealing with that. But the music is really good. The music is upbeat. The rhythms are great. The vocals, a novelty. They can get boring fast. I've had a couple of projects personally where I've like used pitch shifters and stuff like that. It's a fair bit of fun, but you can't just like listen to it all the time. It comes across as cheap, disposable music. It's not like, oh yeah, that is a classic record. If it's attached to the genre Porno Grind, it's generally perceived as just like cheap and not like, quality. But I like the music. I like the rhythms. I like the instrumentals. I don't like the samples. I don't like the novelty value. It's like I would take Gore Grind. Yeah, I would give Gore Grind the music of Porno Grind, and I would swap the samples. Even though Gore Grind, I don't want to listen to Mortician and listen to Flipping. I know you can consider Mortician death metal, but I'm coming from. I don't want to listen to like 2 minutes of horror film samples before a 1 minute song. I don't want to do that. That's so boring, man. That's horrible. I'm not playing that crap, man. The samples ruin it. The imagery makes it unmarketable, but the sound is great. Power metal as far as like heavy metal value is like probably just as pure as heavy metal, even though it's not heavy metal. Power metal's cool. The fan base is like, it doesn't attract moshes. There's no moshes in the power metal circuit, that's for sure. There's no one cool in power metal. No one's cool, like. But I did play World of Warcraft. So, I guess we got something in common. Power metal. I'll bang you on D for the sake of it. Good musicians. I'm not too familiar with power metal. I do know it, but no one's moshing. No one's moshing. That's it. Be all and end all. Progressive metal. I think Opeth are one of the best bands of all time. Progressive as a whole, though, no one's moshing. E tier. No one's moshing. It can be very egocentric. I'm not bothered about a craft. I'm not bothered about technicality. I'm not bothered about musicianship. I'm not bothered. I, as the audience, as your market, want to consume your product and enjoy your product. And if it's like more so based on showing off as opposed to like making me feel something at least, that's just the way it is. Slamming death. You know what we don't? Yeah, basically slam. Slam is B tier. I want my slam with an older school production. I don't want to hear like modern deathcore being titled as slam, which I think there's more or less, you know, there's a blurring of the lines now. All these modernized like deathcore acts are basically deathcore, if not slam, if not beatdown. I mean, they're not really traditional like of the genre, but modernized. They're all just like this hyper polished, hyper produced, just horrible robotic shit. Slam sounds good when it's gritty. Slam sounds good when it's of a lower quality, when it's more primitive. I like slam. Slam works very, 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 very well in hardcore environments as opposed to metal environments. Slam is great. Yeah, slam is great. I like rhythmic music, like I've said over and over again. I like dance music. Fantastic, really good. Slam is adjacent to beatdown hardcore. And I'm talking about real beatdown hardcore, like beatdown hardcore that derives from the 90s onwards. Slam is a parallel of such, and I've got to appreciate that. Yeah, I like riffs, I like grooves. Like, not to say, you know, because I ripped on groove metal earlier. When I say I like grooves, you can find groove anywhere. I'm not going to give it an entire genre, but slam is good, is good. Speed metal. Speed metal can be corny like power metal, but I like it. I'll put them on same tier. Speed metal, you get a D. Even though I like speed, because there is a crossover to thrash metal, it's just, whatever. Symphonic metal, what symphonic? Nightwish? I think Symphony X is a prog band, right? Is that symphonic metal? Flip nose. If Nightwish is involved, respectfully, I'll take it from an F to an E. I think Nightwish are actually pretty good. Like, genuinely, I think Nightwish are good. Tech Death, E tier. I don't want to hear your wanky guitar off. I can't be arsed. I can't be arsed. I don't want to listen to Origin. I don't want to listen to. Well, you know what? The Faceless were all right. But you can't mosh. Really. Don't want to listen to Faceless. Don't want to listen to Obscura. Don't want to listen to. I don't want to watch you play guitar solos. When I was a teenager, that was cool. When I was learning how to play guitar, then I learned how to play guitar, and I thought, I'm not impressed by this crap no more. You know what I mean? It's pointless, you know? Tech deathcore doesn't exist. It's not a thing. That's an F. Progressive metalcore doesn't exist. That's an F. Thrash metal, S tier. There you go. There you go. That's your tier list. So, starting from the bottom, the worst of the worst of the worst. Avant-garde metal, I don't even know what that is. Doesn't exist. Blackened metalcore. What is that? Like Black Tongue? That's down tempo, innit? Exactly. What is black and metalcore? Doesn't exist. Drone metal. Boring. The only people who like drone metal are just... I knew a guy, and all respect to him, he put me on. He put me on. He got me into... he was a big influence. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. He put me on when I was young. He put me on to like the Black Dahlia Murder. He was into Bring Me the Horizon. He was into Suicide Silence and acts like this. And he put me on to extreme music. I rate him and I respect the hell out of him for that. But within years, he started to get into like these music forum bands. And he became what we knew at the time as what would be considered a hipster. And all these hipster bands. Drone metal is... And he started to... No, you need to... I collect vinyl now. And yeah, you need to listen to this. Come on. Melodic deathcore doesn't exist. Melodic metalcore. Isn't that melodic death? You know what I mean? You listen to At the Gates, right? And you tell me, can't that be categorized as melodic metalcore? Basically what it is. It doesn't exist. It's melodic death. New deathcore doesn't exist. New metalcore doesn't exist. Pirate metal does exist. No. Not at all. I'm not... No! Technical deathcore. Deathcore is technical as it is. Can be technical. It's still deathcore. To me, whether it's down tempo or whether it's technical, it's deathcore. That is it. It's not like it doesn't deserve a genre of its own. Progressive metalcore definitely doesn't exist. Progressive metalcore does not exist. That's made up. E-tier, alternative metal. What classifies as that? Boring bands that nobody moshes to, or like novelty band. Oh, is alternate metal like bands like Necrogoblicon and shit like that? No, fuck that. Black and Deathcore. Yeah, not for me. Not for me. The artistry involved, the image involved, the aesthetic involved detracts from the music because it's false, it's fake. Musically speaking, it can be okay. I'm not gonna put that down, but yeah, BS. Christian metal. If it was Christian hardcore, it'd be getting a way higher tier. But Christian metal is, yeah, I'm all right. You being Christian, but I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear preaching and metal music. It softens everything. I've got to love thy neighbour. I can't mosh him out and punch him in the head. Can't do that. Don't want to hear it. Gent. Horrible fan base. Maybe good music, but I'm put off by the fact that they care more so about the gear. They care more so about the tone. They care more so about everything aside from the fact that the music makes them feel something. You know what I mean? That's the be all and end all. You know what I mean? Art is honest and connects on an emotional level in a perfect world. Gent hasn't touched me in that manner. Doom metal. Is getting an upgrade because they're better than the genres I just mentioned. Doom goes to D. There you go. Doom fans, don't hate on me. There you go. I'll put some respect on you, right? We'll talk about Doom in a second when we move up to the D tier. Depressive suicidal black metal. Just look at the genre title. I can't tell no when I listen to that shit. Full stop. No. Folk, and I can't mosh. Folk metal, I've only heard Fintroll. There's potential. There is potential. Industrial metal, it's a thing of the past. It's a thing of the past. Porno Grind, yep, incredible music, good dance music. So much. 90% of this genre's image detracts from the music. Creates such a shock value that it just buries itself 6 feet under. It has to go into E, unfortunately. And you could say, oh, bro, it's not about selling out. It's about the expression, man. The expression isn't just like putting porn samples into the music. That's sad. That's really sad. Progressive metal. Yeah, I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered. Let me give you some. Dream Theater used to be one of my favorite bands. Now I've not got the time. I don't got the time. I don't want to listen to a change of seasons. I don't want to listen to 7 degrees of inner turbulence or whatever it's called. I don't have the time. Symphonic metal. Who cares? Technical death, tech death. I gotta put respect on tech death, but it's shred for shred's sake, half of it. Not bothered. D tier, Black and Death, pretty good. Black metal. As the years progress, I reckon I will be putting black metal higher and higher. I think I'm starting to grow into black metal, or at least that which I identify as actually rooted in something real, not just imagery, not just painting your face like an idiot. Who gives a fuck, man? I can't. How can I take you serious if you put your makeup on to perform? I hate that, but I do like the esoteric. I do like wisdom of the spiritual and the occult. I find that fascinating, and as I grow older, I start to become more black metal can improve over time, given that it proves itself to me. That's all I'm saying. Groove metal, yeah, I don't mind a riff or two, but I've never come across a good groove metal band. Never. Nu metal, there's some good bands. They're unique bands, but as a genre, as a whole, it's so all over the place. It is what it is. Power metal, it's cool, but I don't want to use the word. Oh, actually, hold on. You won't believe this. I've got an advertisement at the side of the page. Watch the advertisement. It's on your left-hand side. Am I? I'm a weird guy, right? I'm an odd guy, and I think a lot of odd people are attracted to power metal. No one moshes. That's it. I'm not interested in fantasy. Speed metal. Speed metal sounds good in principle. It sounds good. But when it's in effect, and when it's like established a community, and when it's there before you, it doesn't necessarily ever be like it's never put in a place where I give a fuck. So no. Speed metal is like thrash metal's uncool brother, to be honest. Doom metal, as the years go by, maybe doom metal will go up a tier, but I won't see it going to B. It'll probably max out at C tier. Blackened thrash, as long as the vocals are blackened and the thrash metal is the instrumental, yes, C tier. Whereas if the instrumental incorporates blackened elements and black metal elements, no, then it'll be a D, if not an E. Simple as. Brutal death metal, yeah, good. Death metal, yeah, good. Deathcore, yeah, good, right? I'm not a person who hates on deathcore because I know, metalheads or death metal fans are just like, what the hell is deathcore? Take off your skinny jeans and all of that. Like, we're still stuck in 2004. Deathcore can be good. If you like heavy music, deathcore can be good. And I'm not involved in like listening to deathcore post 2010. Like, I don't know no deathcore past there, but 2000s to 2010, I think deathcore was pretty good, and there's some good bands that came from that. Grindcore in B tier, yeah, most definitely. Grindcore is great. Grindcore is a mature genre. A lot of people get into music, get into metal, get into punk, whichever pathway, and then eventually end up at like grind or power violence, and both of them sort of share the same turf, I would say. Grindcore is a good genre. It's a mature genre. Plenty of leeway in grindcore. You could take it in a novelty direction, which I don't like, clearly. But you can be a mature grind act. You can talk about things that matter, There's a political element if you want to take it that way. Or if you want to be basically a punk rock band, but just accentuate extremity, you can do that, and that's great. I like that. I want to hear, some good rhythms on that drum kit. I don't just want to hear noise for noise's sake. But there we go, grindcore, melodic death. I think melodic death. This is the one genre out of like the entire. Well, maybe I've got one more coming up. To be honest, melodic death and metalcore. They're like the two genres on this entire list that I would say are hard. I don't know what you yourself personally decipher that as. But when I say something's hard, I mean that's hard. That's sick. Like there is a solid value to that. Melodic death to me is a hard genre. I think it's a great genre. I think it's solidified. Slamming death, yes, slam is great. Devourment is great. You tell me the other bands. I can't pronounce half of them. Cephalotripsy or something. Psst. You tell me. Yeah, Slamming Death is good, and Slamming Death is very good in independent venues to crowds of 70 people who are turning up just to mosh hard at a hardcore event. Very good. Heavy metal in A tier. Do I need to say more? Metalcore, yes. In particular, 90s metalcore. In particular, 90s influenced metalcore. In particular, Slayer influenced metalcore. Most definite. Metalcore of the 90s is also sort of adjacent to beatdown hardcore, in my opinion. Shattered Realm-esque stuff. Slayer worship, straight, plain and simple. Slayer is the best metal band of all time. I don't care. Crossover thrash, yes. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like we've gone from Slayer to Slayer. Crossover thrash, yes, most definite. Crossover thrash in the metal sense, as opposed to like the punk rock gonna fall apart at any moment. DRI sense, yeah. Crossover in the sense of power trip, most definitely, yes. Winning, S tier. And then finalizing on thrash metal, yes, S tier, most definitely. Thrash is the best metal genre ever, and that won't change. Riffs, energy, speed, attitude, youthfulness, no matter what age you're at. The Pit, the best of punk, the best of metal, which is the duality of extreme music. I don't care for noise, I care for moshing and dancing, and you've got punk rock and you've got metal, and they both come together in crossover and thrash. That is life. That's quite simply the end of any discussion of what is a good genre and not. I've polished that off. This is King of the Pit Media. I'm signing out. Peace.